this mic is night and day difference compared to the old one. So I'm pretty excited about it. And what's nice is I got an XLR port on the back of it. So when I get one of those fancy connector things, I don't even know what it's called. But
Fancy connector things.
I don't even know
yeah.
what XLR is, so
You and me
Well,
both.
Cody, I think it's time that you start learning that kind of stuff if you're going to be doing podcasts with me. Just saying.
my daughter set this computer up for me. So
That's our IT right there. So, Robin, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? I mean, we're familiar with you, but for everybody else.
So, I was a dispatcher for 22 years, 23 years, something like that. And then I am also an EMT, but I don't practice. Now I am a director of safety at Ivy Tech, the Berrien campus. So, I have a daughter and a son. We're married for just a year now. That's it. As good as it gets.
What's the director position like? Like, what does that entail?
I take care of everybody on campus, make sure everybody it, it's really kind of boring, honestly. It really is. I I am so bored out of my mind.
I think that means you're doing a good job, though. If your job is to make sure everybody's safe and then you're bored at it,
Yeah.
I would say that means you're doing pretty good.
So it's they didn't have a safety director for like 6 or 8 months before me. I was there, so everybody's like, "We don't. What do we do?" And so I'm trying to learn everything without anybody teaching me anything. So it's definitely different. So
How did you end up in that role?
I actually took I'm a peer support specialist also, and I took my test there. Um, I got to looking at what jobs I had open, and they had it, and I was like, eh. My husband's like, go ahead and apply for it. I was like, there is no way I qualified for this. And he's like, looked at the what you needed to do, and he's like, yeah, you are. I was like, nah, no, whatever. I applied for it, and like 2 days later, like, hey, you want to interview? I was like, "Are you serious?" And they're like, "Yeah, interview." I was like, "Okay." I thought I tanked it. Seriously thought I tanked it. Like 2 hours later, "Wanna do a second interview?" And I was like, "You guys have got to be kidding me, right?" And they're like, "Yeah." And then here we are. So, here I am.
I felt when I left EMS and fire, I started working in the occupational health and safety field. I was like, this is so freaking boring. I'm gonna lose my
Mhm.
mind. I don't know that I can do it. And I mean, it just takes a little time. Eventually, you kind of get used to it, and you're like, ah, this isn't so bad. Having a normal sleep pattern, having a normal life, it's not bad.
So I will get a normal sleep pattern because I don't have it yet.
I mean, eventually, it takes a long time.
Okay. Okay.
I went from nights to day shifts, so it took forever for
Okay.
me to figure out how to sleep like a normal human being.
I don't know what that's like.
I mean, sleeping is tough for you, Cody, just in general.
No, when I get to sleep, it's fine. It's just
Getting there.
it's the sleep schedule part. I don't have one of those.
Well, that's fair. That's what you get for working a 24/48, though.
Yeah, I like having those 2 days off though.
It would be
It's
nice.
nice.
And we have meetings about meetings. That
You have
just
meetings about
about
meetings?
meetings. I am like, why are we having it just baffles me.
It's the carpet walker life.
Easy.
That's
I
basically
mean,
what
you're
I
not
am
wrong.
anymore at the fire department. So
I used to
You're
tease
not
my dad
wrong
about it all the
because
time.
we have meetings about meetings all the time too, and it's like, why are we having a meeting about something that's not going to start for another 6 years? Like,
let's
why are we
have a
talking about
meeting
this
to
right now?
schedule a date for another meeting to talk about the next meeting that we're going to have about the actual thing we want to talk about.
Because my
All
dad
right.
was a vice president. Yeah, because my dad was a vice president, and he would have meetings about meetings. And I used to tease him all the time about having meetings, and I'm like, Dad, and he's like, Shut up, just shut up. And I was like, okay. And I'm like, now I'm doing it, and I was just like, yep, eat my words. I'm eating them, salt and pepper.
So how old are your kids?
My daughter's 30, and my son is 24.
30 and 24.
Yeah.
What does your son do?
He works at Penske. He is what's he doing now? I don't even know what he does for Penske now. He was one of the repair guys, but he just switched jobs for Penske. So I'm not sure exactly what he's doing for him now. And then Erica's going to school for radiology at Ivy Tech.
Oh, nice.
Yep.
Nice.
And she just had a baby. She's just turned 7 months.
Well, that's awesome.
So,
That's exciting.
yep. Yeah.
Now you got them grandbabies to spoil.
Yes. She will probably be our only one, which is fine.
Even more spoiled then.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We actually got told we have to quit shopping. And I'm like, okay, whatever. So she's getting ready to move out. And I'm like, what happens at our house stays at our house.
I mean,
So,
you're not wrong, because like my
yep.
kid, he's at his grandma's he stayed the night last night. He was there pretty much all day yesterday, stayed the night last night, and he's hanging out there today. And I don't want to know what all is going on there. He's there with his cousin this weekend, and they're just those two together
Shenanigans.
are like, oh my goodness, it is something.
Shenanigans.
And they're both around the same age, so it's perfect for them.
I mean, I used to tell my mom and dad, stop buying her stuff. And they're like, just look at me like, I'm like, I know I'm wasting my breath. And I'm like, Erica, you used to get this spoiled. So, come on. So, good luck. I mean, she was 2 months old and she has enough clothes until she's 2. So,
It's a good
yeah,
problem to have.
exactly.
I mean, I haven't had to buy any clothes for either one of my youngest two
Hmm.
ever.
I'm like, why are you complaining? She's got clothes and everything else.
My kid, every time he goes to Dollar General with his grandma, he ends up walking out with a new toy.
Hmm.
To be fair, if it was bought at Dollar General, it's probably only going to last about a day anyway.
You're not wrong. Although it is
Yep.
better than Dollar Tree. The quality is a little bit better. But
It's
we
the
live
Fun
out here in
fact.
the
cheapest.
middle of nowhere, so Dollar General is like a mall compared to what it could be out here.
Now, fun fact about Cody, I used to be an assistant manager at a Dollar General
It's fitting. I think they're
many, many
hiring out
eons
here.
ago.
I think they're hiring out here, Cody, if you want to reapply and relive old
No,
days.
no,
Reminisce.
no.
I think they're going to make it into a market.
I'd be taking about a $50,000 a year pay cut to go to Dollar General.
Yeah, that's not bad. You can make it work. So, Robin, tell us a little bit about. I know we kind of chatted and we're just kind of jumping in on this, but tell us a little bit about your daughter.
All right. So she was a functioning addict. I had no idea she was even using. She
What was she
started when
using?
she was using heroin. I mean, from
She
the get
just
go,
she just
jumped right
jumped
into it.
right into heroin.
She was 14.
Wow.
Yeah, 14. And she went to a friend's house, asked if she could spend the night at a friend's house. It was her softball coach's sisters. Her daughter and her were good friends. Hey, mom, can I spend the night at Tori's house? Sure. Didn't know mom very well, but it was her softball coach's sister. So thought, yeah, no problem. No big deal. It was her mom that gave it to her. And I did not find that out until I came across one of her journals that it was actually her mom that gave it to her. There was alcohol involved that night that I had found out that was the issue. I had gotten a phone call about 3:30 in the morning from the police that they had busted a party at the house and Erica was drunk. And they didn't apparently know anything about the drug use. So they took her to the station. Obviously, I was furious about the alcohol, and they gave me the option of coming to get her or taking her to White's. And so I was like, and I was a year into dispatching, I think, maybe 2, something like that. And so they gave me the courtesy of coming to get her. And so they put her on probation. Didn't think anything about it, but she went to school, got good grades still, completely functioning. The only thing she had was an attitude. Well, she's a teenage girl. She's mine. We all know me. I have an attitude. So nobody thought anything about it. She 19. I get a phone call at 3:30 in the morning. "Hey, Mom, I'm in jail." "What?" I'm like, "For what?" And she's, "Possession." "Possession of what?" And she's like, "Heroin." I'm like dumbfounded. I start getting mad, and she's like, "Don't get mad." I'm still, in denial. She's got to be holding it for somebody else. There's no way it's hers. I'm like, "Who are you holding it for?" She's like, "I'm not. It's mine." And I'm like, "Nah." And so it was in Fulton County. So I was like, okay. So I call her dad and I let her dad know. Hold on. I hit a button and let her dad know. And he goes, "She's sitting." I'm like, "We can't let her sit." And he's like, "Yep, we're letting her sit." So she calls me and she's like, "Are you coming to get me?" I was like, "Nope." And she's like, "Well, did you call dad?" And I was like, "Yeah, called him and you're sitting." So he made her sit for, I think it was like a month. She was furious. So I think she got clean maybe a year after that. And then she started using again. And this went on back and forth for 14 years. She has
So
9 felonies.
during from the time when she was first introduced until that time when she first got arrested for possession, how often was she using?
She was going to school she was using the school bathroom.
How does
She
a
was
high school kid get a hold of that stuff?
in Wabash. It is everywhere. Teachers had it, kids had it. I hate to say it, police officers had it. Come to find out run down the line, the officer that arrested her did know that the house that she was at when she got busted for the alcohol, they knew that the mom had it also, but nobody did anything about it. And the mom knew that the alcohol was in the house also.
So between the age of 14 when she first started using and then when you finally found out about it, then at 19 when she got caught for possession, did you have any inkling that anything was going on during that
No,
period of time?
nope,
No?
nope, none
And
at
she
all.
was using daily.
Daily, completely functioning. Like I said, she only had an attitude. I mean, it was escalated the attitude was escalated a little bit, but her friends were, I mean, there was arguments and all that stuff, but nothing unusual because she was a teenage girl. We didn't think anything about it. I mean, her dad was out of the picture per se, and my husband at the time, hold on a second, was a civilian contractor in Iraq, so he wasn't around a whole lot. So I was on my own and I was working constantly. So I wasn't around a whole lot to really pay attention to anything. For the court system, she was in Fulton County for the first arrest. She's been arrested in Fulton County, Wabash County, and Allen County. Fulton County, none of them, Fulton County threatened her with DOC, but none of them actually sent her to DOC. The judge there, he was strict on her to a certain points, but he knew what I did for a living. So he didn't want to put that on me, but I wouldn't let him use me as that crutch. So she did a lot of time in the county jail. He was, at one point, he was like, "Well, since your mom's a dispatcher," and I was like, we're not doing that. She needs to do her time, and you're not going to use me as a way to let her get out of this. And he's like, "So you want me to leave her in jail?" And I said, "Yeah, because if she's out, she's going to run the streets." So there was one point, I didn't know she was dead or alive for 2 weeks. I begged her probation officers, state troopers, our city and county officers to find her. And her probation officer in Fulton County literally got mad at me and told me not to tell him how to do his job. She told me she's living with her sister and she's fine. Her sister lives in Scotland. And I go, "Well, I didn't know felons could get a passport." And he's like, "What are you talking about?" And I go, "Her sister lives in Scotland. So in order for her to live with her sister, she had to get a passport." And he's like, No, she doesn't. She lives in Wabash. And I go, well, I'm pretty sure I know where her sister lives. She lives in Scotland. And so she lied to you and you got played. I don't know if she's
I'm
dead or
not
alive.
telling you how to do your job.
Exactly. And because she had cut off her ankle bracelet. So she was getting charged for her escape. And I'm like, I'm trying to help you. I'm trying to help, not and I don't know if my daughter's dead or alive. So I was working third shift at Wabash at this time, and I was walking into work, and just as the dispatcher had said, is that with an A or an E? And I knew exactly who they were talking about, and I go, it's with an A. And she turned around and she goes, I know, and I'm sorry. And I go, nope, I need to make a phone call, and so I could let my dad and my son know, hey, she's alive. She's in jail, but she's alive. So I had to dispatch the rest of her arrests that night. Yeah. That was,
What was that arrest for?
she was trespassing. The guy that she was with, he was using, and it was his old house, and he had drugs hid in the house, and they were going back to get the drugs. And the officer that was arresting her was one of her classmates. So he was having a hard time with arresting her
So you were actually in dispatch working.
and dispatching her arrest. Yeah.
That's horrible.
Yep. And she had no clue. She was so high, she had no idea it was me. Every officer was like devastated. Him having to arrest her, me having to do the dispatch, and everybody knowing she had no idea it was even me dispatching her arrest.
So what went on from there? So she goes to jail this
She
time.
goes to j- she goes to jail. I got off the next morning and I went to jail to talk to see her. She refused to even book in. So they couldn't even acknowledge she was there. And they're like, Robin, we know, but we can't let you see her because she won't book in. And at that point, I was furious because she's being insubordinate to them and disrespectful to them. And I'm like, those are my coworkers. And she's like, I don't care. And I'm like, you're on your own. You're going to do this. You know, you just broke my heart last night. You put everybody I work with in that position. You're putting me in this position. That's it. But that wasn't my breaking point, surprisingly enough. It went on for probably 3 more years, I think. Yeah, 3 more years. I need to backtrack a little bit because she was clean. She had been clean for 4 years prior to that. Her dad, her biological dad, was in a horrific motorcycle accident. It almost killed him. And that's her response to things, is using. She can't handle when bad things happen. That's her response. She doesn't process things like we do. I'll just get high so that way it numbs it. She doesn't believe in therapy or anything like that. I'll just numb it. I'll take drugs, it'll numb it instead of processing it like the rest of us. 2 days later, my mom died. So then she started using. And that one, that spiraled. And that's when she started using really heavily. And it was the point of no return this time around. And it almost killed me. And that's when I moved to South Carolina.
What was in South Carolina?
I had gone down there for vacation, and it was the furthest point I could get because I was enabling her, the arrest, and I was I was helping her. Everything was it'll be okay. We'll work through it. I will, we'll fix it. And even after dispatching her arrest and all of that, I was still trying to fix it. Even as mad as I was in the position she had put myself and my coworkers in, I was still trying to fix it.
I mean, she's your kid. Of
Yeah.
course, you're gonna try. You're gonna try to help her, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So, I mean, was this move basically to remove yourself from the situation to see if
Yeah.
that helped? Then
Because I legit was loving her to death. My breaking point was just before I moved. We were texting one night. It was the last time she used. Me and her friends had noticed something's changed. Like I said, when she uses, she takes it out on me. everything that goes on. She gets angry with me. She takes, because I'm mom. Mom's always going to be there. Doesn't matter what she does, I'm going to be there. And I had already made the announcement that I was going to move. And I had noticed subtle changes. It wasn't as drastic as usual. And one night we were texting, and then all of a sudden she stopped texting. And I'm like, I'm going to get one of two phone calls in the morning. She's in jail or she's dead. And I don't drink. I'll drink every once in a while, but I don't drink. And I was out with a friend of mine who drinks like crazy. I was drinking him under the table. And we were luckily at a bar that they know that I don't ever drink. And they got his attention. They're like, hey, she's drinking you under the table. And they're like, he's like, what? And I was probably 4 drinks to his one at that point. And he's like, what? And they're like, yeah, she's probably 4 drinks to your one. I probably put 30 drinks down that night. And
Wow.
yeah, if I finish a fourth of a drink now, it's amazing. But I probably
And
put 30 drinks because I was furious.
that was just a response to that particular occasion where she stopped
Yeah.
communicating with you at all?
Yeah. And because I was mad, I was to the point I was mad and I was done. It was my final breaking point. And sure enough, the next morning I got the phone call. Hey mom, I'm in jail. Sorry, it's not my problem. Call the people that you call when you're out because the only time you need me is when you're in jail. And I yelled at her from get-go. And she's like, I'll call you back in a couple hours when you've calmed down. I go, probably not going to happen, but thanks for the phone call. It's a courtesy call. I know you're alive. And she hung up. Called me back couple hours later, same response. Started yelling. She's like, I'll call you back on Monday or on tomorrow. Maybe it's a different response. And I was like, don't count on it. She did call me back the next day. Same response. I'm like, you only need me when you're in jail. Call the people when you're out. Just call them because they're the ones that's when you need them for money, for your bond, put money in your books because that's who you need. And that was in Allen County and they let her out on Monday morning. Well, she had court in Rochester that next day, all the way to Rochester. I yelled at her. That was done. And in the meantime, I had wrote a letter to the judge in Rochester saying, hey, you've got to court order her to rehab because if you don't, she's going to end up dead because she's going to keep using. And I can't do this anymore because it's going to kill me.
What is she doing for income during this whole like, how is she I'm assuming she has a job, but, like, how is she keeping this job with going back and forth to jail?
She was working off and on like McDonald's and places like that, factories, and she was getting drugs at factories, and then she was doing the stuff that addicts do. She wouldn't confirm nor deny that, but she protected me a lot on things that she did. She won't talk about things. That's one thing that she did for me. She won't talk about the stuff that she did about the time that she used. I came across her journal. She does not know I came across her journal, and that's how I found out about a lot of stuff
Even
that
to this
she
day,
has.
she doesn't know that?
Yeah, even to this day, she does not know I have I found her journal, and that's how I found out about a lot of stuff. And I will not ever tell her I found her journal, and she won't ever tell me about the stuff that she did when she was using. And it's just one of those things that how we are with each other about stuff like that. And I know people are like, oh, that's stuff you just probably should talk about. And probably, but still, maybe down the line we will, but I don't know. You know what I mean?
So heroin's just always been the drug of choice. It wasn't anything else?
No, wasn't anything else.
Man,
So
that's
when
rough.
she went to court that day, she asked the judge to court order her to rehab.
Awesome.
And this was September 11th. was the last time that she used. And then the judge asked her, I've seen you in court off and on for years. What's the difference now? Why are you asking to be court ordered? And she goes, because if you don't court order me, I'm going to go through withdrawals and I'm going to want to use. And when I want to use, if you're not court ordering me, I'm going to walk out. And she goes, if I'm going to want to walk out, I will walk out. And if you court order me, I can't. He said, okay. And he court ordered her to rehab. And that was it. And she never looked back.
And
She
when was
did September of 2021.
okay? She's been clean since?
She did a suicide attempt April 2nd of last year with an overdose, but that was it. It was a boyfriend issue, but that was the mental health issues part of it too. But when she did that, it was medical, immediate, and that.
What does the whole rehab process look like for you?
What do you mean?
How did that go?
It went really well. She was there for it was 30-day court ordered, but she stayed 2 months. So when the 30 days was up, she was like, I'm not ready yet. So they extended it another 30 days.
She took it seriously this time.
She took it seriously this time. Yep.
Man,
So,
that's rough. We always, how do I say this? I mean, we've all been on heroin overdoses and drug
mhm,
calls and stuff like that before, and it's easy in for people in public safety and really in the community. It's easy for people to get this mentality of not caring, I guess. And I think that's one of the big things that I want to try to get across to everybody is at the end of the day, when we go on these calls, these are human beings, and 9 times out of 10, how they even got started on the drug to begin with wasn't like, you know what, I think I want to start heroin today. I think I want to start doing cocaine. Usually, it's a progression. You start off with something and you work your way up. But a lot of times it's friends or friends of friends or whatever that introduce people to these, and then they get hooked instantly. And it's very easy
mhm.
for us to get this mentality of here's another overdose call, or you know Narcan shouldn't be free to people, or why is Narcan free but you know name a medication, why isn't that free for these other people suffering from illnesses? And I think it's important that everybody understands that this is an illness. Like
Right.
having an addiction to a drug, to alcohol, to whatever, it is an illness 100%. And
Mhm.
the country as a whole has failed millions of people by not providing better mental health treatments, better. I mean, rehab's great, but not every rehab center is the best, and they're not all the
Right.
same. And anymore it seems like unless you're rich or famous, you don't get the latest and greatest rehab center. So I'm really glad it's so far has worked out great for her, and that's awesome that she's been sober for this long.
I mean, great. I use Robert Downey Jr. as a prime example. How many times was he in rehab before it worked? And he has access to whatever one he wanted. And it has taken him so many times for it to work. I mean,
Yeah, I
hundreds
mean,
of times before it can happen to anybody.
and even if you're in rehab, it's not a magic bullet treatment.
Yeah.
And I think, overall, just to kind of piggyback on some of the stuff that Tyler was saying too, I think as a country, not only we failed on the mental health aspect of it,
Hmm.
the amount of punitive measures that are used against people that have these addictions that just don't work. Right? Okay, send them to jail for a little bit. Honestly, most of the times in jail, they can still get access to it somehow.
And she
Tyler, you
did.
you worked in it. You were worked for what was it? A private
A
operated.
prison.
Yeah, prison. So I mean, you probably saw it there too. So going to prison, going to jail doesn't necessarily prevents you from getting access to it, and it's a snowball effect, and
Hmm.
see it all the time working in the line of work that I do.
Hmm. Yep.
Yeah,
And it happened with her.
I'm a firm believer in the DARE program didn't work. The the war on drugs program isn't working, and we can go down rabbit holes of how heroin and all these other drugs even got into the United States, and for the sake of everybody's sanity we won't. But at the end of the day, like, in my opinion, if I was running the country, I guess, I think that instead of throwing people into jail for using drugs or having drugs or whatever, they should just automatically be sent to a rehab facility. Because at the end of the day,
Right.
like you said, Cody, sending them to jail isn't necessarily going to fix the problem because they can still get a hold of stuff.
Hmm.
Granted, I never saw that when I was working in a prison, but it's common knowledge that if you want something, it's probably going to be even easier to get it in jail or in prison than it would be on the streets in a lot of cases. I mean, I could tell you how many times I saw people do like getting tattoos in a prison, and it was obvious. You know, you never found the equipment because they take the equipment apart so quick and it'd be scattered across the entire prison floor and you'd never find it. But you could tell when somebody's getting a tattoo done. Everybody's holding up blankets, and there's always somebody over in the corner that's watching you. And as soon as you walk in the door, they give out a call sign, and it's insane. But there's so many things you
Erica got
can
her
do
first
in there.
tattoo in jail.
Yeah, I mean it's easy to do.
You know, I would have I would never have gone to an overdose in a jail if it was impossible to get it in jail, and I can tell you all
Right.
kinds of stories about that type of
Huntington,
stuff.
Huntington had what, three overdoses in one? Yep, a couple
I
years
mean,
ago.
Did not hear about that one.
there was a point in time in Allen County where there was, I don't know, 6 or 7 overdoses in just a matter of a couple weeks.
Hmm. Yep.
Let's send them
So
to
I
jail,
mean,
though.
yep.
You know, I mean, even if the rehab sending them to a court ordered rehab program, even if that doesn't work, I mean, if you're consistently sending these people to that type of program, eventually something's
It's
got to click, right? I
right.
would
It's
hope.
starting. It's start.
Well, in her situation, she clearly wanted the change, and
Hmm.
you can't force somebody to change. Like, I mean, somebody that's addicted to drugs, addicted to alcohol, until they want to make a change, until they realize, like, that light bulb goes off and they're like, "Hey, this is awful. I'm done with it." Until they make that decision and they stick with it, we can't we can't force anybody to change.
Hmm.
Rehab's a good step. It's a much better step than going and sitting in an 8 by 9 cell. But at the end of the day, it's still up to them if they're going to want to make that change.
Right. And I mean, and like you said, it is a medical condition, and 9 times out of 10, it's a mental health, and that's hers is a mental health issue. And and you don't wake up one, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? An addict. Well, that's not it. So there's got to be an answer. Do I know the answer? No, I don't. But there's got to be there's an answer somewhere down the line.
Well, and to piggyback off of that, you brought up a great point. Addiction is a mental health issue, and
Hmm.
it's either caused by trauma or maybe it's an underlining medical issue or a mental health issue that don't even know about, whatever. But a prime
Hmm.
example is, Cody, how many firefighters and medics do you know, ourselves included, that smoke cigarettes or drink alcohol
Hmm.
or vape?
Just about every single one that I know would
Hmm.
check one of those boxes.
Yeah,
I
so
mean,
in a prime
I've
example,
got I've got
what kind
this
of
right
mental
here.
health are right, right, and what kind of mental health issues are we facing? We're facing the constant traumatic scenes that we go on, and seeing some of the horrific crap that we see all the time. And our coping mechanism is typically tobacco or alcohol. Now, every once in a while,
Hmm.
you get somebody that's in fire or EMS or police that turn to something different. Maybe they start using fentanyl or they go heroin or crack or whatever. Everybody's trying to look for that coping mechanism. And it just brings back the whole point again of why I even started this podcast to begin with, is that mental health is such a huge issue within our world, but more specifically within our country, that something's got to be done differently.
Because I know when I took bad calls, first thing I would do was text my dad, "Do you have whiskey?" And he knew exactly what happened. And, "Do you need to talk about it?" "Nope." And I'd come home and there would be a shot of whiskey sitting on the counter for me. And, "I'm here when you're ready to talk." And he's still waiting for me to have that conversation of what happened, what the call was about. And he knows every April, okay, she needs a shot of whiskey. And it's been 10 years. And he's still waiting for me to have that conversation. So, I mean, that's what we do. And it's unfortunate. That's what we do.
How has brother handled this whole situation?
I don't know if she heard that question. I think she cut out there for a minute.
Yes, she did. How has brother handled this situation?
He has been very resilient. He is the most understanding kid. I don't know. He's like been a godsend. I don't know what I did to deserve such a great kid in him. I don't know. I mean, he has been so supportive of her. He's been by her side through everything. He hasn't gotten mad at her, upset with her, or anything that she has needed. He has been there. I mean, he's been phenomenal. That's all I can say. Absolutely phenomenal with her.
Has your guys' relationship mended over the time that
Yeah.
she's been sober?
Yeah, it has. It's weird because we just kind of like bounce back and just start off right where we left off. It's like when it starts right, like an old friend we haven't seen for years. You just start back right where we left off.
I'm definitely glad that she seems to be on the right path this time, and hopefully everything continues to work out.
Baby has
Well, it
definitely
sounds like she's got a
started.
good. It's actually what I was just going to bring up. Sounds like she's got a good reason to stay clean now. Because
Yes,
when you bring kids into the mix, it's a different perspective.
because that was one of our fears, mine and my husband's fears, because we were like, we were prepared to raise a baby. We had that in the back of our mind. We're like, okay, we're like these, and we're gonna have a newborn. But thank God we get to be grandparents.
Good deal. Cody, you got any last remarks before we let Robin go, and then I want to talk about another subject here.
No, I mean, just for everybody in public safety that listens to this podcast, just keep in mind that when you are going on these overdoses, like you mentioned earlier, Tyler, they're humans, right? And it's not just a thing there to give Narcan to. It's a human being, and behind that human being is an entire family that has to deal with that as well. And I don't think that all of the time people realize that. That behind that patient that's overdosing, you've got moms, you've got dads, you've got siblings that have been dealing with this for a while. So treat them like humans.
And we appreciate you guys doing what you guys do. We really do, and we understand that you guys are constantly going on these overdoses, and we understand that you see it constantly and it gets draining and you wish it would stop, and we wish that you didn't have to do it. And we understand that it's difficult not having the thoughts that you guys are having, and we wish that there was something that we could do that you so you didn't have to have those thoughts. And we understand. We really do. But we
I think
appreciate
it's
you guys.
important. I think it's important to understand that it's okay to be mad when you go on these calls. It's okay
Yes.
to be mad at the situation. It's okay to be mad at the drugs. It's okay to be mad at just the whole thing in general. But like Cody said, and like I've mentioned a handful of times already, we still have a job to do. We still have to treat that patient. But I think a lot of it, the best way to kind of fix the mentality, at least within public safety, is understanding that this is an illness and it's not always necessarily a choice. I think at the beginning, the very first time somebody uses, you could say, yes, that was a choice. They made a choice to use heroin. They made a choice to use whatever drug you want to mention. But it gets to the point where it's no longer a choice. There's a podcast I was listening to where a guy, he's addicted to crack. Crack was his drug of choice, even though he hated it. And he tells you from like day one, he says, I hated this drug. It was absolutely awful. I never wanted to do it. But he ended up getting addicted to it. And he tells you that when you go a couple days without using crack, you start to get this sickness. And I don't remember exactly what he called it, but you basically get sick because you're not using. Just like with alcoholism, you get withdrawals and that sort of thing, and same thing with heroin and all these other drugs. Your body becomes dependent on what it is that you're putting in, and when you stop, now your body's like all pissed off. Where the hell's where's my juice at? Like I need it. And that's when I say that it's no longer a choice at that point, because people start to think, well, what else am I going to do? If I don't use, then I feel like I'm going to die. And in a lot of cases, they do feel that way. Look at alcohol. Alcohol withdrawals are so bad that you can actually die from alcohol withdrawals. So long story short is, I think, like I said, it's important to keep all these things in mind. And at the end of the day, we need to do everything we can to try to help people that are going through these situations. Robin, do you have any final words that you want to share with everybody?
Like you said, I mean, the first time you use it is, I mean, the choice. She told me, yeah, I chose to try it. And then it just spiraled it till it was no longer a choice. And she tried to control it and she couldn't control it anymore. It's definitely that thing. And I appreciate you guys for letting me do this.
Yeah, we definitely
I do.
appreciate you coming on and talking. And we're
So,
glad to hear that she's on the mend and things are going well. Hopefully they continue to do so.
Sounds like a long road, but one that's got a happy ending.
yep. So I appreciate it.
Well, thanks, Robin, for joining us.
All right.
And Cody, we're going to
Thank you.
take a quick break and move on to the next topic here.
All
Alrighty.
righty. Okay. You guys have a good day.
Yep, you too.
What's going on, everybody? Thanks for checking out this episode of The Debrief. If you like the show, please give us a follow on YouTube. Also, leave us a review, some comments. Let us know how we're doing. Greatly appreciate it. I want to give you some updates because I like to be as transparent as possible. I think more people should be that way, to be completely honest. But I started this podcast back in around July or August of 2024. And since then, it has continued to grow. We've brought on some amazing guests. And really at that time, I only had the intentions of talking to people that I knew, just giving them an opportunity to share their story. Because at the end of the day, if you've listened to any of my episodes, I talk about how important it is to get the things that are stuck in your brain out. Get all that stuff out so that it doesn't cause you problems in the future. But since then, like I said, we've continued to grow. I brought on Cody Randall as a co-host. Cody is an awesome addition to the show. I've known him for a long time, and him and I have worked together for a long time. So I think he's going to do some great things with us. We've also started migrating a lot of our episodes over to YouTube, still providing you quality content on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, but YouTube, it gets a little bit more personal because you can see our faces. Makes things a little bit easier. So some other things that we've done is we've created a Patreon account. So why Patreon? Well, one, we want to create a community of people, like-minded people, where we can all kind of help each other out. When we're going through tough situations, we've had a bad call, bad run, whatever, there's a separate community for that. And it's away from Facebook and those algorithms and all of that. It does cost $5 a month, but here's why. Running a podcast isn't cheap. There's software costs, there's equipment costs, there's so many different things. And we have big goals for the future. At least I have big goals for the future. So let's first talk about what benefits you get for just paying only $5 a month to be a part of this community. One, you get to know who the guests are first. We're starting to get some bigger name guests on the show, and we want you to know first so that you have an opportunity to ask questions. On the Patreon account in that community, you'll get an opportunity to ask a question, and then we'll pick a couple of them to ask live on the show each time we record. You'll also get discounts on merchandise. We're starting to create some t-shirts, hopefully do some hats here in the future. I'm working on some challenge coins and a whole bunch of different things. So you'll get discounts on merchandise on there as well. And then monthly, we're going to do some live chats. We'll talk as a community. People can ask each other questions. We could talk about whatever you guys as a community would want to talk about. And there's going to be so many more options. I just only have a limited amount of time to talk about it. So again, as I mentioned, join the Patreon account. It's only $5 a month. You can go to debriefwithtyler.com. I've got a link there on how to sign up. We're also looking for sponsorship. So if you or someone you know is interested, really enjoys the content of the show and wants to be more a part of it, shoot us a message on the Debrief website and we can talk more about that. So for now, I appreciate every single one of you. Thanks for listening to The Debrief with Tyler Burns. Let's get back to the show.
So that was, man, that was a tough conversation with Robin. I can't imagine having to go through that with my child. If I can't imagine.
Yeah, and I don't know that I would have handled it as good as what she appears to have handled it over the course of.
She definitely, man, and I get like what she was talking about when she called Erica's dad, and he was like, "Nope, she could just sit in there." Like, I totally get it. I would probably be the exact same way, but I also, on the same token, would probably be like her and want to do anything and everything, try to help my kid. I don't know. That'd be a tough situation.
It's a situation I hope I don't ever have to experience.
Well, and that's what's terrifying is, and one of the other reasons why I wanted to move out into the middle of nowhere. It's so easy to get a hold of drugs these days. It's like, not that it wasn't when we were kids, but I mean, it's easy to get a hold of heroin and anything that's laced with fentanyl. It's so easy to get a hold of that crap. I saw an article the other day that they're now putting fentanyl into vapes, and now people are vaping fentanyl.
That just sounds horrible.
Yeah, it sounds awful. I mean, it doesn't take much to overdose on it.
I mean, especially the anything you're getting off the street, you have no idea what's in it. You have no idea what the concentration of any of it is, and sometimes as soon as it's hitting your system, you're dead.
Well, and not only that, but because of the big fear of fentanyl and getting addicted to painkillers and all this stuff, you've got a lot of patients. I mean, I ran into it a few times. I don't know if it's still prevalent for you, but we would run on patients all the time that had like a broken leg or broken hip or whatever, and you would ask them, "Do you want anything for the pain?" And they're like, "Nope, I don't want anything because I don't want to get addicted to it." It just makes things 10 times more difficult.
Right? Or they're worried about it's the same stuff that's coming up from everywhere, and
yeah, we had that a lot too, where people would say, "No, I've seen on the news how bad fentanyl is. I don't want it." Well, there's a difference. Like, yeah, it's still fentanyl, but at the end of the day, this is a controlled environment. We know what it is that we're giving you. We know how much to give to you. This is different.
Yeah, it's just. I mean, it's, yeah, I don't. The
And,
ease at which. Go ahead.
I'll put in a little plug for Fort Wayne 22. So Fort Wayne 22 is this organization here locally. They support veterans. And one of the things that I've seen them doing recently, they have been going to like the local jails. They've been sitting down with inmates and talking to them about drug abuse and alcohol abuse and all these different things, trying to help them so that they aren't another statistic. Granted, they try to focus a lot on veterans, but at the same time, they're out there talking to everybody. And I think it's awesome that we've got organizations like that are trying to get ahead of this. That podcast I was talking to you about the guy who was addicted to crack. He went on and started an organization in Tennessee. Uh, Specifically, it was I can't remember the name of the city in Tennessee. It wasn't Nashville. Yeah, I don't remember. But anyway, he started this organization, and he is helping people who are addicted to drugs and who are, they fall into this constant loop of drugs, jail, rehab, drugs, jail, rehab. And he's trying to help them. And he talks about it was in Memphis, by the way. He talks about how there were these houses throughout the whole city that you could go there and you get whatever you wanted. You wanted XYZ drug, you wanted prostitution, you wanted whatever you wanted, you go to this house and you get it. And since then, and in similar situation, I mean, he had been in jail and out of jail so many times and in rehab centers. Since then, he started this organization. He ended up buying up those old houses and he's flipped them basically into halfway houses. And he has had conversations with all of the major drug dealers down there, trying to help get them out of the situation that they're in and trying to help some that are severely addicted to drugs to get them out of their situation. I think that's awesome. I think unfortunately I think Fort Wayne and surrounding counties is getting to the point where we're going to need something like that too.
No, I agree, and it's a very thankless job too to even go about that type of work activity.
Yeah. Uh, on a completely different subject, did you hear about these four deputies from the same sheriff's office died? They all died within 6 weeks, and they all died by suicide.
I did not hear about it until you actually mentioned something to me about it earlier, and I've been looking up news articles about it since, and it's sad, really.
Yeah, so from what I know, from what you have found, and from what like this article that I'm looking at, so this particular department has a like a mental health portion of their agency, which I mean, not to attack this department at all, but clearly it's not working or something's not working. There's a gap somewhere because they just had four officers all commit suicide within a 6 week time frame.
Yeah, and I'm also curious how long their behavioral health division is what they call it. How long that's actually been active? Because is it such an issue in this department that they decided to to create this section of their department, which awesome for them if that's actually what they went for. But what kind of a mental health problem are they having as a department? Was the impetus for this because they were noticing such a problem in their department, or is it something that they've just created along the way and they're playing catch up?
I
You know,
don't
it's
know. I'm also curious, were the four of these individuals, like, were they all on the same call that was the breaking point for them? So it says, our hearts are heavy. Uh, this is from Harris County Sheriff Ed Gonzalez. He announced originally that a retiree had died from an apparent suicide. Gonzalez said that it marked three for them within the span of a week. We extend our deepest condolences to these families, colleagues, and friends. It's a painful reminder that life is fragile and time is not promised. May they rest in peace. A few days before the death of Deputy Christina Kohler was announced by the sheriff's office, Kohler was found dead after being reported missing. 3 days after Kohler was found, it was also announced that former Deputy Maria Vasquez, who left the department in December, also died from suicide. And then earlier last week, another former deputy, William Bozeman, was found dead under similar circumstances. Former Deputy Long Nugent also died by suicide on February 6th, according to the medical examiner. What is going on?
I don't know. Obviously, it very much highlights the problem and shines a huge spotlight on it. Um, Not for just this department in particular, but just the issue as throughout the country. You know, the article that I've got up in front of me right now has some pretty startling statistics. Um, Law enforcement officers are 54% more likely to die of suicide than the regular population. Actually, nope, that's the wrong statistic. 60%. Not that that's any better. Um, 34% of police officers struggle with some type of depression, and 17% have been diagnosed with post traumatic stress disorder. You know, those are some pretty big numbers, some scary statistics. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
I don't know. So, kind of putting on my tinfoil hat here. Let's uh let's assume that this article was correct and these are legitimately suicides. And it's sad that I have to say this because uh it's just lack of trusting media and just everybody in general. If these four deaths were all suicides, then there is something deeper that is an issue within this particular agency because that's not common. I don't care how big your department is. The fact that you have four deputies that die by suicide within 6 weeks, there's something wrong there. But putting on my tinfoil hat, do we really know these were suicides? Were these targeted for some reason? I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of unanswered questions involved in this.
Yeah, I mean, and all the articles that I've pulled up thus far to read are kind of short on details. Um, was this sounds like
Which
this might have been a bigger department, right?
I would think so.
I mean, if they've got a
When I say that department was called,
Harris
Harris
County,
County Sheriff's Department. I mean, everything's bigger in
Houston
Texas,
area,
so
Houston
so
area.
it's a decent sized department then.
Still, though, that's a significant amount of. I mean, one person dying of suicide is significant, but to have 4 on the same department in a 6-week span, be setting some alarm bells off for me.
Yeah, and I'm trying to. It doesn't tell me. So 2024, there was 165 line of duty deaths for police officers. But suicide is not marked down here as a statistic. But we know that police and firefighters are at a higher chance of attempting or committing suicide, but nobody wants to show the statistics.
Yeah, I I'm digging through the realms of the internet right now as you're talking, trying to see if I can't find some actual
So
statistics associated with that.
in 2022, uh, there were 25 agencies that reported 50 suicides and 9 attempted suicides. 2023, there were 26 agencies reported 35 suicides and 10 attempted suicides. And as of November 21st of 2024, 7 agencies have reported 9 suicides and 3 attempted suicides. So I think part of the problem, which isn't really a big surprise, probably for anybody listening, including myself, is they're just not getting reported. This article says about 184 law enforcement officers die by suicide each year. And this came out 9 days ago.
There's just so many
More than
varying numbers and statistics that are out there. I mean, if you want to say that, some of the numbers that I just said, you're 60% more likely to die by suicide if you're in law enforcement. Then this article right here is referencing in the past, between 2016 and 2022. Where's that number? 1,200 law enforcement officers, died by suicide. That just, I hate to say it, but that just seems like an underreported number.
Well, but
If
it kind of goes in line with what we've talked about in the past. People within public safety don't typically want to reach out for help because they feel like they're going to be either looked at differently or they might lose their job or whatever the case may be. And it's probably the same thing. Like these, it's no secret that there are departments and agencies across the country, both fire and police, that don't do a great job at reporting things for national statistics purposes. I mean, you get some of these small podunk towns, they maybe have 4 or 5 police officers, or maybe they have, one volunteer department. Chances are their reporting capabilities aren't going to be near as good as Los Angeles Fire Department or Chicago Fire Department or whatever. So I would imagine these numbers are probably not 100% accurate. Now, this article, there is an organization called First Help, and they track law enforcement and first responder suicides. So it partners with data scientists from CNA Corporation, which is a nonpartisan research organization. CNA's Center for Justice Research and Innovation provides technical assistance and conducts research with criminal justice agencies across the country. Um, the nonprofits collect the data from several sources, including suicides reported on the First Help website, news articles, First Help social media accounts, and direct contact with family and friends. of those who have died by suicide. So that's probably going to be the closest thing we're going to get to accurate data is through this organization, because it seems like they do a lot of digging.
Yeah, they almost seem to actually be searching out the data for that, not necessarily relying on the departments to report it. Let's see. Yeah, I mean the article that I got in front of me right now is talking about underreporting of data, but most most of the suicides that are reported are from larger departments with 100 or more full-time sworn officers. So is that more of an issue with larger departments, or is it just because the larger departments at this point have more staff available to actually report to all of these organizations? You know, is your small podunk police department with 6 officers going to even be able to have the time and the resources to report all of this data?
So this is honestly, I need to do more digging on this website, but I'm pretty impressed with it. So I put in, you know what? Let me screen share here. That way I can show what I'm talking about. So I put on here, you can select what year you want. I just put 2024, and then you can filter it by profession. So corrections, dispatchers, EMS, fire, and law enforcement. And then it shows you a nice little fancy map. Texas in 2024 had 5. I'm assuming this is suicides. Yeah, suicides. Florida had 7. Indiana didn't have any reported. Ohio had 3, so on and so forth. Then let's look at law enforcement. So law enforcement had 104 suicides in 2024, with New York looks like to be the biggest with 10. California with 7. Florida with 8.
What'd you say this
And then
website was?
it's
Or
first,
organization,
like
rather?
one sthelp.org, and it filters everything, like by race, years of service. So the average years of service were 15.85, so almost 16 years of service. I mean, it provides a lot of average age. So 31 to 40 was the big age range for suicides for law enforcement for this. This is quite impressive.
Yeah, I'm just scrolling through it myself here.
And for the listeners that have been following us since day one, if you haven't noticed, my audio quality is a little bit better than normal. I finally splurged and got myself a better mic.
Got that big boy bite mic now?
It took me forever to figure it out. So this thing has a built-in headphone. It's got a 3 millimeter plug, so you can plug headphones in. Not that I've ever had. I haven't had wired headphones in years.
Do they still even make
But
them?
oh yeah. That, I mean, studio quality headphones. You could plug those in. Kind of like yours, but a little bit bigger. And then it's got like a volume control. But what's really cool is it's got an XLR port on the back of it, so that whenever I get more better equipment, stuff like that, I can always. The XLR is just around plug-in, I guess, and they say the audio is even better that way than it is the way I'm doing it, which is USB. Yeah, so you can even download this report too if you wanted to. So if you wanted to use this information for, I mean, we could use this information in some of our episodes. Let's see what EMS is just for 2024. Holy cow. Okay, I guess it's not as much as I thought. So EMS in 2024, it was 5. With the biggest year being
Bet I know which one.
2022 and 2023, there were 6.
It's not the years I would have actually guessed.
I mean, coming out of COVID, I could see that. So for all of the agencies combined, 2022 was no 2019. Sorry, 2019 was the biggest year for suicides within all of those professions. There were 256.
2022 came pretty close.
2022 did come close to 225. So at the end of the day, I think it's important to kind of end this whole thing with just reiterating a few things. One, if you're going through something rough, and I've said this on episodes even before Cody was a co-host on here. I am a big advocate for peer conversations. Like if if Cody's having a bad day, do I think that he needs to go and seek professional help? Yeah, maybe. But could he get, at least initially, could he at least get by with just talking to somebody that he trusts? Yeah, I think that's the best first step is, talk to somebody who is not involved with the situation, but understands like the profession, whether they're, firefighter, police officer, medic, whatever, nurse, whatever. Talk to somebody that understands what it is that you do, what it is that you go through on a daily basis. But somebody that's not like your partner, somebody that wasn't necessarily working that day, because you don't want it to be judgment filled. You don't want them to be like, well, I would have done this or I would have done that, or I was there or I heard it on the radio and that's not how this call went. You don't want that. You just want somebody that is willing to listen. And I'm a big advocate for at least starting there. If you feel like you need to go seek professional help, I highly encourage you to. I just think that you should do your research before you just walk into a random building and be like, yep, I need to see a counselor. Because there are some counselors that don't understand what people in public safety go through. And mental health is not a one size fits all. And the same thing if you're finding yourself going down the path of using drugs, drinking excessively, to the point where you're more than you normally do. You find yourself I don't know, getting blackout drunk on a Wednesday. Have a conversation with somebody and start down that path. And like we were talking to Robin about, if you have a friend or a family member that you feel like they're not doing well, at the end of the day, unless they realize that they need to get help, they're not gonna. It's not just gonna magically happen just because you push them to. I think those are big things to keep in mind. Yeah. So that's my 2 cents on that whole situation.
Just a sad situation in general. I
What
did
else we
sign up
got
to their
going on?
newsletter though.
You
Oh,
what?
I got nothing, man. Oh, I signed up to their newsletter.
Oh,
The
I
first
didn't
help.
realize that. I might do that too.
Yeah. See what kind of information they send out.
Yeah. So, we've got some. Let's talk about some of our guests that we've got coming up. We got some good guests coming up here soon. So next week we have a guy by the name of Danny Couples, um, which I I can't. I was gonna I'll share, on that episode I'll share the commercial, but he's part of him and a buddy of his started a company where they make these light bulbs that flash and they hook up to an app on your phone. So when you have like an emergency situation at home, you can activate the button from your phone and it'll flash to help first responders find your house. Um,
Really?
he is I believe he's a retired fire chief, but we got him coming up, and then I've got uh, I've got somebody that I'm going to chat with that's actually a local business owner in town. So Salvatore's, if you're familiar with Salvatore's here in town,
Oh.
I'm going to be
Oh.
chatting with Stephanie. Her and her husband own that organization.
That is one of
And
my
then,
favorite places to eat.
oh, I know it's so good. Well, and they just keep continuing to grow too. So I think that's going to be a real fun conversation. You'll be working, and I've got to meet with her in person because when I was texting her, she's like, I don't even own a personal laptop. I said, oh, okay. Well, we'll make this work.
Really? Runs a
Yeah.
business but does not have. Hey, apparently it can be done.
Yeah. Yeah. She's going to be really fun to talk to. And then uh, after that, we've got three awesome people that we're going to chat with. One is Chief Joe Martin. He is a fire chief on the western part of Indiana. Eric Johnson, who is the founder of Supporting Heroes out of Louisville, Kentucky. We're going to be
Good
talking with him.
organization.
What did I say?
Hmm?
What did I say?
Nothing. I just said it's a good organization.
Oh, I thought you corrected me. There's a
No,
delay.
no, I was making a comment in the background.
I got you. And then another person that we're going to be talking to is Christy Randolph. And I'm here to tell you, Christy and I chatted on the phone a couple weeks ago, and her story is insane. So, just to kind of give you a sneak preview, Christy's daughter, I don't even know when this was. A few years ago, maybe. I don't. We'll talk about it in the interview. But Christy's daughter was brutally murdered by her husband, soon to be ex-husband. Um, and it's just absolutely horrific. Um, and Christy since then has started this organization, at least within Kentucky, trying to get it to grow to different states. But uh, I guess in this situation, what happened was while he was in prison, he, and this is the soon to be ex husband, he refused to uh, give up their child to the grandparents, to Chrissy and her husband. So the child ended up going into foster care for a little while Chrissy and her husband fought the courts to try to adopt the kid, because I mean, mom's dead and dad, who's a POS, is in prison now. On top of that, he also still had rights, even though he was in prison, even though he murdered their daughter. He had rights to her body still, based off of the law in Kentucky, which, by the way, apparently is a law in all 50 states. So he had final say of what happens with the victim's body. Yeah, just insane. So we're going to be talking to Christy. I think she's going to be real fun to talk with. Also got a bunch of other people lined up in the chats with chatting with them to do some interviews. Some local, some not so local. So yeah, got some fun stuff coming up.
Oh. Well, for the I'll have something interesting to throw up behind me on the shirt wall too. In a couple days here, I should get my fancy cycling jersey that I had made.
Are you gonna tack it up there, or are you gonna wear it?
The first debut of it will be back here.
Ah, okay. What you should have done with that, not to give out too many details, what you should have done was you should have put a QR code on there for people to scan, and then they could have found us on YouTube
I
or whatever.
I don't know how to make a QR code.
I don't either, but we have an IT specialist within our
That's right.
organization.
That's
For
right.
those of you that don't know, our IT specialist is Cody's daughter, who is 11?
12.
12. Oh my goodness. 12 years flew by.
Yep, everything that you're seeing my lovely face on right now and hearing my voice, it was set up by my 12-year-old because I have reached the age where technology has surpassed my knowledge of it.
You, sir, reached that age 10 years ago.
Well, I've finally accepted it now, though.
Yeah. Valid point. Well, with that, I'm going to have fun editing all of this with all the technical difficulties that we had on this episode. But be sure to check out the Facebook page, the Instagram page. Check out the website, debriefwithtyler.com. I've got a lot of things in the works of what I want to do in the future. And I think I don't, without giving too many things away, I think there's going to be some exciting stuff coming up. So more to come later on, but got some stuff in the works. So also join Parlor, join the community on Parlor. It's only $5 a month. You spend more than that on tobacco and whatever else your vice is to get through some of these rough calls. So join us on there. Let's start a community. We can all reach out to each other and lean on each other for help. It's not going to be like Facebook where you post something and then you've got 800 people who are laughing at you and, you know, just treating you like garbage. I want it to be a community where, you know, you're having a rough shift and you come on there and be like, I don't know how to handle this situation. You know, just something we can look into. But it starts with people joining. So need people to join.
For everybody that doesn't have that support system at home or what have you.
Even if you do, like, it'll be a judgment-free zone. You know, you come on there and say, you know, I just had this incident happen and I don't know how to handle it. Well, let's talk about it. Let's figure it out. We'll do some live broadcasts on there. You find out who these guests are first and get an opportunity to ask them questions. We're starting to get some more bigger name guests on here, thanks to some help from some friends, and just talking about everything now at this point. Still focus a lot on mental health, still focus a lot on public safety, but if it's something that myself or Cody finds interesting and we want to learn more about it, we're going to talk to him. With that, I think that's all I got, Cody. You got anything else to close us out?
I got nothing but my traditional closing salute.
Yeah, this isn't tool time, sir, but that's fine. It works.
Well, that's a different salute.
Salute to
You
tool
just
time.
you just referenced a show that a lot of people probably don't even remember.
Such a good show, though.
I still
Such
watch
a good
it.
show. I mean, I
What is it?
watched it.
Laugh TV, I think is the channel. They still play
Yeah,
episodes
maybe.
of it.
I mean, you can find it on streaming now too. What a crazy stuff.
May have to introduce my wife and kids to some real TV.
You got to introduce them to MASH too. For anybody that hasn't seen MASH, you are missing out. That show, first of all, that show arguably has some of the best one-liners out of any TV show. Secondly, it's realistic. Like a lot of the medical procedures that they do on there came out around that time of when they're talking. So it's Korean War. So the open heart massage, like that came out, that started around that time. CPR started around that time. It's a really good show. Highly recommend it. And it's funny as hell.
It's better than Chicago Fire.
Hands down 100%. And that 911 call or 911 show, whatever that is, that's awful. We need to do an episode where we play clips of that show and we just annihilate them.
I cringe every time I have to watch any one of those TV shows.
Yeah. I think we're gonna do that. I think we're gonna do like a show within the show. So like we'll do an interview and then every once in a while it'll just be Cody and I, and I'll play an episode from one of those horrific TV shows, and then we'll pause
This
it
is how you
and
would get fired and why.
we'll talk about it and attack it and tell you how stupid this is, and we'll just move on with our lives. I think that's a great idea.
Oh, good
That could be
drama,
our
but
little
the the actual scenes of them doing what their version of what they think it is just horrifically horrible.
yeah. Have you seen Fire Country?
I've seen clips of it.
It's a pretty good show. I mean it's drama filled. It's your typical Hollywood TV show, but it's pretty good.
I mean, if you want to watch the real stuff, watch Night Watch.
Or First 48. Check out the First 48 and you can watch Jason White in his element. I'll keep putting plugs in because he puts plugs in for us every time he does a live recording.
So I actually just got a subscription to another streaming service solely so I could rewatch the First 48 and watch. That's
Rewatch.
the only reason I got it.
They're still doing new episodes all the time.
I started at episode 1 and I'm watching all of them.
Oh my lord, that's like watching every episode of Law and Order. That would take decades.
I've done that too.
Oh. That would take forever.
I don't think I ever finished it, honestly, but
I mean, the storyline's the same in every episode.
But it's a good storyline. That's the reason why it's still on TV.
No, it's still on TV because people like my grandmother still watch it every day.
What's between the little...
between that and national news.
Try to remember the little... What is it? The intro music to Law and Order.
Dun dun.
Jeez, something like that. I used to have that as my text alert.
The dun dun part.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, let me take a look here.
Now, if my phone even makes a noise, I want to throw it across the room.
I mean, yes, 100%.
It's on vibrate all the time. Sometimes that's actually shut off and it's on silent. And if you call me, I probably won't know about it. And I make fun of people that have audible text notifications now. That dun dun is what I had as my text alert.
Oh yeah, yeah. A lot of people did. Do you remember? You remember like paying money to download a ringtone? It was like 99 cents or $1.99 or whatever just to get a 20-second ringtone for your phone.
Yep. Yep. Now you can get that crap for free.
Now I just leave it on vibrate all the time.
There's that too.
Or the other thing that people would do was they would pay however much it costs so that if you called me, instead of getting the typical ringing sound in your ear, there would be
Oh,
some
the
random
ringback
song playing.
tones. That was so annoying. I hated that. Call somebody and listen to some crap music they think is
It's
good.
especially if it was a song that was awful.
Exactly.
People have poor taste in music sometimes.
Mm. Well, the music I grew up with is starting to get played on classic rock stations, so
Yeah, I did notice that the other day. Now I know how my grandpa felt.
mm.
Although my grandpa was listening to like the oldies stations all the time, which we're probably only about 10 years away from our music being played on that channel. So there's that.
Metallica is considered classic rock now. Can you believe that?
Yes. Do you know? Can you believe that
Not well,
Metallica?
not like the '80s Metallica. I'm talking about like the stuff that I grew up with in the '90s.
It, it's all the same as far as classic rock goes.
Oh,
It's
man.
not in our eyes, but it is in the music industries.
Yeah.
What do you say?
Apparently, the stuff I grew up with is now considered dad rock.
Well, you're old.
Well, I will continue to pretend that I can sing to Creed going down the road.
Creed. Every once in a while, you got to
Mm-hmm.
mix it up and throw in a little CCR in there too.
Mm-hmm.
As long as you're not playing Nickelback.
Oh, I am. You're gonna make fun of me hardcore for this. I am actually still a fan of Nickelback.
I really don't have an issue with their stuff. Just for whatever reason, everybody is so angry at them and hates their music.
So there for a while, I was such a hardcore Nickelback fan. I went to I literally I think I've seen them live 4 or 5 times.
See, I've
Every
never
time
seen
they
them
would
live.
come, they put on a really good show actually. Um, which is can't talk. It's what's required for me to spend money on a concert ticket anymore. Which I honestly haven't done in over 10 years.
Yeah, the wife was giving me crap not that long ago. We haven't been to a concert in a long time. We used to go to several concerts in a year, and we haven't gone in a while. We're
The
overdue.
last one that I actually went to was Avenged Sevenfold, Buck Cherry, and Papa Roach.
I think I was at that one too.
Were you at the one where Avenged Sevenfold actually got to play, or were you there when we Avenged Sevenfold got food poisoning and we got, tortured with an extended set of Buck Cherry?
I don't remember. That was so long ago. Who knows? All right. With that, I think that's all I got. We'll see y'all next week. I promise I will not have pink eye for that episode. We'll see.
Looks painful.
It actually isn't. I'm just tired of my eyes being crusted shut when I wake up in the morning.
And then looking at the screen like this.
I mean, but to me, my eyes are wide open. To you guys, I look
They're
like
not.
shitty sushi.
Oh.
I got nothing.
All right.
I'm going to get Chinese food tonight. Anyway, that's all I got. We'll see y'all.
Bye.